Katie and Dave show coming live. And we can do a vote. It doesn't need to be the Dave and Katie or the Katie and Dave, because every time I'm going to say Katie and Dave.
Yeah.
But today we're going to present to you about the UNIT initiative.
UNIT.
UNIT initiative.
UNIT.
Focused on first responders and veterans and helping them to get the help that they need by providing therapies, support, financial support for these individuals to help break the cycle of what's going on in your head. So unwind it, undo it, un-F it, UNIT.
Let's clarify a little bit, because, you know, I was a first responder in law enforcement. But when we say first responder, we don't just mean police officers.
Right.
We mean fire.
Community.
Yeah. I mean, just it's not just, hey, we're helping out a cop. We're helping out a firefighter. We're helping out an EMT. You know,
we're helping out people
Yeah.
who have sacrificed from your family, from your friends. You miss birthday parties, you miss basketball with your kids because you miss Christmas because you're doing work for the community. So you're out there either responding to situations that are, you know, not routine, so car wrecks, even in the ERs, first responders, people in the ERs, nurses, first responders. I mean, there's a lot of people to where you don't come first, right? So
I think if you're in a first responder, you're never first.
right.
I think that's part of the problem, is we don't hold ourselves accountable for the same things that we say, hey, you need to go see somebody because you're showing signs of struggling. But we won't do that to ourselves because we never put ourselves first.
Right. So if you're a protector of the community, helper in the community, leader of the community, and you want to be protected and you want to get help because you just don't feel right, something feels off, or I feel off balance, or maybe you do know that you're struggling with your mental health. Heck, some people do. Most people don't.
Yeah, I didn't.
So we're doing the UNIT initiative to raise money to help everybody receive ketamine infusions or therapy or group therapy or whatever people need to help them to break the cycle of what they're going through.
Yeah, we're trying to make it normal to not always feel normal.
Because that's life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. It's life.
Life is not an idealistic sense of Katie laying in a field with flowers and butterflies everywhere. Life sucks sometimes.
Well, first of all, she's not going to lay still long enough for a butterfly to even fly around, because
I chase
she's
the
Sonic the
butterflies.
Hedgehog.
I chase them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is. Life does suck. I mean, it's not a bed of roses. The biggest thing that's happened with me with Revitalists and getting help and getting the treatments, it's not that I'm cured. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever cured.
But what
There's
is
always
cure?
going to be, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think we
What
don't
is
even
normal?
know.
What is normal?
Right.
I say I just want to feel normal again. What's normal?
You know what I think normal is I think
I don't know normal.
I'll tell you what I think normal is. I think normal is having a base. Normal is feeling like you have a base that you can grow from.
Okay, and I'll agree 100% with that. It's just sometimes you got to be made aware of what your base is. Like,
You gotta know what your base
you're
is.
right.
Right.
I didn't know my base. In my mind, I literally went from being normal
To not.
to all of a sudden not.
Yeah, which is-
And it's not true, because it just didn't happen overnight. I mean, it you know.
Yeah, well,
No,
right.
the build up started, and I kept stacking and stacking and stacking until I couldn't stack anymore. But, you know, like the stuttering stuff, it started, but in my mind, I was like, there was a medical, like, I had a tumor or something, nothing mental. It was all, there had to be, I'm dying of a brain tumor or something, because
well, and I think
in law enforcement, you do not recognize.
But the reason you went from 0 to none, 0 to all, we'll say in your situation, is because you built up coping mechanisms. And the way I look at that is, yes, you were stacking along the way, but you were overcompensating and overcompensating and overcompensating until you couldn't overcompensate anymore. And then guess what happened? The dam broke, and then there's Dave, like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah, I didn't know what happened.
No, you didn't know, because as first responders and as medical providers, you're intended to go into the storm and function. Period. So we don't learn the differentiating pieces of when you're in the middle of the storm and you're functioning. Okay, well, that task is over. All right, next day, that becomes your norm. But we forgot about the person who's the officer or the person who's the firefighter. We put them together.
Yeah,
and that's where we've not done a good job at educating ourselves or others on this. Well, because this is brand new. I mean, this is kind of the cool thing with ketamine and psychedelics and all that stuff, is that we're able to slow the brain down just enough to make sense of the complexity of the patterns to where you can simplify it. And you can give people like Dave, who has his right hand up right now, the common steps on, hey, here's what you should do in order to prevent the relapse of the patterns of the mood that you had previously. Therefore, if you are proactive at preventing them, then you keep your base. Dave, you have a question?
Yes. I would like to say that I get what you're saying there. When you said slow down the process, like for me, I mean, we slowed it down to let me catch up, but understand that's just part of the ketamine. Like, it still took somebody had to explain it to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just,
the brain is nothing to laugh at.
Yeah, I mean, like the ketamine was instant. I mean, it was instant relief for me, but we still had, I needed to explain what's going on, because nobody in law enforcement talked about, hey,
because nobody knows.
Well, right? Or I'm not being a butt here, but either you drink yourself to sleep at night, or you sit up and you don't sleep because all you're thinking about is the bad stuff that you just dealt with. Because and
then you can't talk to your families, because then you don't want them to worry about you, and all this other stuff.
You don't want to put
and you don't want to traumatize.
You're right. You don't want to put that grief on them.
Yep. So it's something that you hold in, and then
it's horrible.
Yeah, you internalize it, and then it doesn't function well. So, I mean, that's kind of the neat thing with the unit initiative. What we're doing here is because we created this initiative to raise money to help first responders and veterans, because the cultures of first responders and veterans needs to be recognized more so.
It needs to be recognized and changed.
It does. Well, I mean, right. People need to come to it. So first responders and veterans are very goal-oriented with their communication styles. They're very short-term goal. They can look at long-term goals, but they don't really care about long-term as much as they do short-term, because you have to be able to hear the issue, troubleshoot, execute, get a goal. And you're probably going to do that many times in a day, every day that you go to work, right? So that's what you're doing every day. If a police officer comes to Revitalist, we're not going to necessarily talk about your childhood, because that doesn't matter to your situation right now. Now, does it to some people? Sure, it can to some people, but usually police officers are more so having issues with a lot of the significant events that they've seen lately. They've just not had time to process, and maybe they've gotten stacked more. And then, and what it does is it doesn't neutralize your base, but I feel like it makes your base more porous. So what Dave was saying, slowing down, trying to get caught up, all that stuff, the way that a lot of the mental health people do slowing down is meditate. I hear that, but that's not always applicable to a police officer. the way police officers need to slow